Believe it or not, one of the most common things I hear is that people are just too busy to connect with God. And I'm here to help with that. So let's jump in. But first, I'm part of Whereyouare.church. It's a church that helps people reconnect with God through our practical content and our growing community. And our name communicates that God is right where you are. You don't need to go looking for God because He's right with you. More than just your geographic location too. He actually knows where your heart is right now, and He desires to meet with you precisely right there. And also, our name communicates more. It communicates our heart, and that's that we want to be where God is, right? We want to follow Him in His pursuit of people, and we want to be right in the center of His activity in the earth. So that's why we're making these videos. It's because we've come across a ton of people who really struggle to connect with God, and we just want to help. So let's talk about being too busy. First of all, I get it. The demands of life can seem overwhelming. And various surveys and studies often suggest this, that a significant proportion of people, often a majority, report feeling time poor, or like they don't have enough hours in the day. Factors like the time crunch of balancing work and family and personal time and technological changes and increased expectations in the workplace often contribute to this feeling, and I felt it numerous times in my life. I remember being in college, taking classes, while also having an internship, while also working full-time, overnights, getting very little sleep, all the while being newlywed and having a newborn who didn't sleep through the night for his first 18 months of life. I wasn't just time poor, I was time bankrupt. And maybe you're in a similar situation. If that's you, I see you. So first of all, I think maybe you're right. If that's you, you're right. You probably don't have time. Maybe you're walking a road just like I was. It was a tough season. Let me say to you what a mentor said to me during that time. Maybe you're just doing too much. But it seems as though a lot of the time this isn't what people are actually communicating when they say, I'm too busy. Instead, it's become a phrase that we use when we just don't want to prioritize something. Maybe it's because we prefer other things and we don't want to stop doing those things, or it's because we feel like it's something that we're not going to be good at or that we're not going to succeed at. So what does I'm too busy really mean for you? Whatever the case, whether you really just have zero time or you prefer other things, you just don't want to stop them, or it's something that you're avoiding because you're not good at it and you don't want to fail, whatever the case, I want to suggest another way of looking at this, because I have a hunch. It's actually a core belief of mine that we can find time for the things that we value the most. So what do I mean? Well, consider Kobe Bryant, for example. He was known for his extraordinary commitment and work ethic. Kobe would often describe his daily routine through his professional career as starting at 4 a.m. to work out. Then he'd spend hours reviewing game footage. He would put in more practice and time than almost any other player. And despite all of his commitments, all of his games and travel and media appearances and business ventures and family, he consistently found time for intensive training and self-improvement. And that just stemmed from his deep love of the game and his relentless pursuit of excellence. You could also take J.K. Rowling. She's known for her creation of the Harry Potter series. And she started writing her first book when she was a single mom. She was unemployed and she was living on state benefits. Despite all of her challenging circumstances, she found the time to write. It was like even cafes while her baby was sleeping. Or Bill Gates. He's, super famous, renowned, wealthy entrepreneur, philanthropist. Despite being one of the most busy and successful people in the entire world, he is known for his avid reading habits. The guy reads 50 books every year, and he's known for sharing his reading lists and book reviews on his personal blog. Or Jesus. How about Jesus? Let me go there. During Jesus's ministry, when he was public, people were pressing on him from every angle. It was non-stop, constantly coming to him, looking for healing, looking for deliverance. Luke 5:16 tells us that he often withdrew to distant places to pray. And we find time, right? We make time for the things that we value most. So the question is, how can we get God to be at the top of the things that we value most? Because if we value Him above all else, we won't be too busy to connect with Him. So let's look at the way that we view God. I'm convinced that the way we view God and what God has done informs how we will think of ourselves and influence what we will do. So for example, I'm gonna start backwards. I call this fruit to root, right? You look at the fruit of the tree, you know that the root is healthy. So I'm gonna do a little fruit check and see what's at the root. If you feel like you're too busy to connect with God, Maybe the way you're seeing God is wrong. Maybe you're seeing God as boring, uninteresting, mundane. Maybe you're seeing him as inaccessible. Maybe you're seeing him as harsh and exacting, right? Maybe mundane because you're not blown away or enamored or compelled by him, right? When you look at God, you think of God, he's just kind of meh, doesn't really compel you. Or maybe you think he's inaccessible because you're just not trying at all. Like you feel like there's no point in trying because you're not going to get through anyway. You've sort of just given up. Or maybe harsh and exacting because you don't feel safe enough to fail in this pursuit, and you feel like you can't even live up to the expectation, so you don't even bother. But the picture of God that we have in the Bible is a lot different than those things, right? The Bible says that God is awe-inspiring, awe-striking, not mundane, not boring. Psalm 19, 1-4 says that the heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. So that's who God is. And what has God done? God has revealed himself through his creation and through his son Jesus to be amazing and awe-inspiring and beautiful. And what does this mean for us? This means that we're intended to be reflective of his beauty, that we are the adornment of his creation. And if that's true of us, then naturally we will be drawn to him because of his beauty, because of how wonderful he is, and we'll desire to spread beauty everywhere else. So let me do another one. Inaccessible, you think maybe that he's hard to reach. The Bible actually tells us that God is ever present. Psalm chapter 139 says this, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you're there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast." God is not only just everywhere, but he's sent his son Jesus to give us access to him, and then gave us his spirit on top of that to indwell us, so he will be with us. It's not that we have to go to him. He's come to us and he fills us, which makes us the temple of the Holy Spirit for him to fill. That's great news. So we don't have to go find him anywhere. Here he is, which means that we will enjoy him anywhere and everywhere all the time. So those are the first two. And then God is not harsh and exacting. Actually, the Bible tells us that God is loving. 1 John chapter 4, verse 8 says that anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Did you hear that? God is love. How do we know this? Because of what he's done. He laid down his life for us. Jesus came and laid down his life, which means that we're the object of his love. He didn't do that for him. He did that for us. God so loved the world that he gave his begotten son. So if that's true, then we will naturally overflow with love for him and love for others. You see, everything in our life, watch this, everything in our life flows from how we see God. The good news of the gospel is that we don't need to minimize or downplay or hide from our sin by saying that we're just too busy, when we know it's really that we've just maybe lost sight of who God is or failed to see him fully in the first place. Jesus saw how serious our sin was. He knew how severe the consequences were. He knew that we would ultimately avoid it and even avoid the Father. So he faced it head on. That way we wouldn't have any reason to hide or minimize or downplay. He did that for us, and he made a way for us. So the issue isn't with God so much as it's with us. One story from Jesus' life actually illustrates the heart of everything I just said. It's in Luke chapter 10. Verse 38-42, it says this, "As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where there was a woman named Martha. She opened her home to him, and she had a sister called Mary, and Mary was sitting at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was distracted by all the stuff that she was doing, all the preparations she made. And she came to him and she asked, 'Lord, why don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me.' 'Martha, Martha,' the Lord answered, 'you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her.'" Here's what I want you to hear. Mary and Martha. Martha chose busyness. Mary chose Jesus. Jesus says that Mary chose the better. You can be like Mary. You can reconnect with Jesus right now, today. Like the wise man said in Ecclesiastes 4:6, "Better is one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind." So take a few minutes right now just to turn your heart to Him. Wherever you are, wherever your heart is, look to Him, and you will see Him, and you will experience His peace. Thanks for watching.